Today is book day. Today is the stream that I have looked forward to for so very long. We started a book club over on Fan House a while ago, and we are finally having the discussion that we have been waiting to have for years. And by years, I mean months. Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Oh my god! I love you guys so much. Hi. How's it going?
Hi.
Hi.
Very well.
I have to mute your stream now.
Yeah,
There we
you
go.
don't need two of me.
No. Well. No.
Well, no.
Hi, I'm Than. Thanrand everywhere on the internet. I am a he, him, human being.
Hi, I'm Sari, or Songbird. I don't really mind, either one works. You can use she or her with me. Whatever makes you comfortable. Yeah.
Wait a second. Have I been saying your name wrong for the past year of my life?
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I feel like I've said it wrong my whole life.
Well, I mean, people say Sarai or Surai or, they say a lot of things, and that's okay. I want them just to be comfortable saying
Yeah,
hi
but what
to me.
is it? I want to say it right.
I want to say it right too. My heart just immediately
Yeah.
dropped out of my asshole.
It might be Sarai, but it's okay.
Sarai? Okay. Oh my
Sarai?
good God.
Because I've said Sarai.
Okay, Derek?
How do you
I
pronounce your name?
follow up on that because it is pronounced Derek Boolander. It's not. That's a straightforward one, and he, him, and I'm just glad to be here.
Gideon the Ninth, it as a story, it plays with a lot of different tropes, and it's essentially a locked room murder mystery that takes place in this crumbling Gothic house. And the relationship between two of the main characters, Gideon and Harrow, is kind of a play on, well, not kind of, it is a play on the classic enemies to lovers story. How did you feel about all of the different tropes within the story?
It was a lot at first, but once you actually started paying attention, getting fully into it, and watching the details and how certain things are said, because you really have to focus on their use of words, it comes out really well. They interweave within each other, especially when you get to the mystery slash, I guess almost adventure portion
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
I can tell you this, the way the whole book starts out, I did not expect a murder mystery out of it.
No,
That's not what I thought it was going to be.
Same, I did not either. But it was very cool, right? It was
Yeah.
very escape room-esque, but in a murder way. I kind of, when I think about the book, I imagine the author having this big cauldron in front of them and grabbing all of these ingredients, one being labeled enemies to lovers, one being labeled in space. So it's kind of, to me, it feels really, what's the word I'm looking for? Really, I don't know the word, but it feels like, lesbian necromancers in space. Yeah, right?
That's how the book was described to me. My friend who has just been preaching about this book for years, and I finally got the chance to read it, or listen to it in my case. And yeah, lesbian necromancers in space.
Yeah, that's, essentially what it is, right? So the bulk of Gideon the Ninth takes place in Canaan House, which is basically, I guess, the only surviving structure left on the planet known as the First House. Is the whole entire planet called the First House? I don't know. That's what I got from it. And I was reading up, and everybody seems like they imagine it as a post-apocalyptic Earth, but that is kind of left up to the reader's imagination. But it seems very fitting. Did any of you identify with any of the houses?
That was because there's 9 houses, correct? Yeah, there's 9 houses.
Mm-hmm.
And the first house didn't really kind of exist, so it was pretty much 2 through 9 in this
Right.
case.
Right. The
So
first house is just basically where they come together to try and be this mysterious being known as a lictor, right? And only one can come out as that mysterious being. So
I
the
would say
first house is not necessarily a house, even though it
that's
is.
kind of and like you said, because it's the post-apocalyptic, it's kind of very similar to like they took from the Hunger Games, where they all had it was the same idea. You had a ton of different realms that everybody was existed as a part of. They all got bushwhacked because of some mythical war
Mm-hmm.
that happened a long time ago, and then they rebuilt houses and structures. I would say for me, reading through it, I feel like the sort of just because of being an athlete, the athletic house kind of that. I think it was 5, 6. I don't remember which off the top of the head. One of the
Okay.
ones was the one that I felt like was the one that I kind of tapped in most to myself, just based on life experience.
Okay.
Honestly, I really identified with Gideon a lot. Just I don't want to be here.
The ninth house, yeah, me
sarcastic.
too. I was gonna be like, not being
Like-
around anybody else, like the whole entire planet got wiped out. Like I'm perfectly fine with being part of the ninth house.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's like spooky and everybody's just kind of their own thing. And yeah, no, I felt like that one, honestly. And I like the idea of they're the weirdos that everyone's like,
Right,
And
right.
I love that idea of intentionally like freaking people out on purpose. Just yeah, I love the imagery with the face paint and yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that.
Okay, so I had a couple notes actually. So they have like 9 different houses, and because you guys were mentioning before that it's supposed to be like a lesbian space story sort of thing to
Yeah.
it, for it being a space story, there is a surprising lack of information on the space travel.
Absolutely.
1 second, you're one house, 1 second, you're another. You don't know if you're going through a huge space to another world or even if you're on the same world.
Right. Like you have no idea, like the map of anything, right?
Well,
Like
in my brain, they were all on different planets. Like they each
Yeah.
have their own planet. And then
Same.
they
Yeah,
meet
very
on the
similar-
first house planet. But even then, like if you didn't know that they were like far future traveling through space, the whole book felt like a fantasy, just a grounded
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
fantasy. And so yeah, but they didn't. And I kind of honestly, I liked the fact that they didn't bog the book down with over explaining the technology of what they were doing. They just
Yeah.
here's what's happening, but the characters are what's important. We're going to focus on that, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I agree. I also thought it was very interesting that Derek brought up the fact that it was kind of similar to the Hunger Games with all of like the different districts, right? Because I didn't even like put that together. I didn't even think about that. But now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, you know what? It is very similar in that way. They're just in space. Were you intrigued by any of the different types of necromancy displayed?
Extremely. I love when books of this nature. So like, and really, it's hard to compare this to any kind of sci-fi book. I'm comparing it to fantasy, and I read a lot of Brandon Sanderson. And Brandon Sanderson is known for having very specific and well thought out systems of how magic works and what you can and can't do with these things. And different people can do different things. And I love the idea that each one of these houses had a focus on a specific type of what they can do with this necromancy stuff. And I want to know all about how they each work. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And the book does kind of go into it a little bit with some here and there, because like we stated before, it is kind of like a murder mystery, but as each necromancer tries to become like this bigger lictor, right? Lictor, whatever, however you pronounce it. They have to go through, I guess, tests almost. And each test is kind of based off of a different type of necromancy. So they all have to start working together to get through these tests in order to get keys to new rooms, to do more tests, and figure out different types of necromancy. Is there like a specific type of necromancy that you really enjoyed over another?
First, before I go too far, just add in this. I hope this doesn't ruin one of your questions. Did anybody read through like the very, very, very end of the book with all of the different sub parts to it, where it explains everybody and all their backgrounds?
No.
No, because I didn't know that existed until like yesterday.
It existed, so I just wanted to.
It is not in the audiobook, and so no, I did not know that existed right now.
It has the whole back end to it, and it's amazing because it explains like how to pronounce everything and how they give a lot of backstory for some of the questions here that.
Well, I had it easy on the pronunciation part because I listened to it.
Yeah,
so I know exactly how these.
I had to try to figure it out on that, but I would say I really enjoy the necromancy of like the almost the healing ability to it. I feel like that's different than a lot of it. I guess I just always thought that's it's a kind of a tough power to have to pull because you have to take your own strength to heal someone. So you're kind of like double dipping. Not only do you have to try to take your power and heal someone else, you're also draining your own at the same time.
Those double dipping necromancers. Unbelievable. I personally really, really liked Harrow's abilities, right? Like, just to, like, summon bones. Like, I think that's so fucking cool. Like, here is my bone army. Take that, motherfuckers, right?
Oh my god, yeah. Read the second book.
Yeah, read the second book. Seriously, read the second book.
Oh my god. I'm only like on chapter 6 of it, but yeah, there's so much. Anyway, I really like the honestly, and obviously consent is a big part of this, but using other people's power to boost yourself.
Yes.
Like, so you've got your partner there, and they're literally there just to be a battery for you to be more powerful, and I think
was
that's really
so wild when they started talking about that. When okay, so for those of you who are just joining in or want a little bit more backstory, each necromancer that goes to the first house also has a cavalier with them, and later on in the book, all the necromancers start realizing that the cavaliers are only there to be used. And they're like not there for any other reason. And like that blew my mind. It's like, oh, so you're not supposed to have a decent relationship with the person who's supposed to be there protecting you. They're only there for you to suck the life force out of them. Like, what?
And they didn't put that in the training. It was okay.
Yeah, yeah, they skipped over that part. Yeah,
skipped over that stage of the day. Nobody went to school that day.
Right, as they should though, because if anybody was told that, hey, I'm gonna be using you, like they're not gonna. They're like, peace out, Girl Scout.
Like in the case of Gideon, though, it was a way to get out of a bad situation. I mean, look at that. If you had enough of it, if you're saying, even if you did have a necromancer that wanted to say, hey, I could rid you of all of the crime or anything that your house has had an issue with within this one, and all you have to do is to be my cavalier, then there you go. I mean, there was probably many that would do that. Like Gideon, who wanted to just get off world.
Am I saying it wrong? Is it cavalier? Oh my god.
They say cavalier in the audiobook.
Okay, do they? Okay, cool.
Yes. So I'm gonna go with that.
So my two top favorites for the necromancers would probably either be the 7th house or the 9th house. Raising bones to do my work seems so amazing.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%.
It seems like not only could it help me, but it could help like literally everyone else. Let's say our whole world wasn't, comprised of skeletons and like 6 people. We could like help everyone out that was there because the skeletons are no longer in use by the souls or energies that were in them.
Right.
Oh, energies. Can we talk about how it's called Thanergy?
Yeah, I know. Oh my god. That was like instantly. I was like, oh my gosh, Than is probably in heaven right now.
I love every moment of it. Yeah. Every time I'm like,
It's like, oh, if Than doesn't rebrand after watching or after reading
yeah,
this book.
yeah, Thanergy. That's gonna be, yeah. Honestly, you know what?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Um, We're, okay, so Sarai, if you could go into a little bit about the seventh house's type of necromancy and why you liked it.
So the part of the poem for the seventh, if you guys remember, was seven for beauty that blossoms and dies. And the Cavalier and the Necromancer for those two, if you remember, was Delicia. I don't think I'm saying that right.
Dulcinea.
And
I'll just...
Protalis? How would I say that one?
It was,
Protesilaus.
yeah.
Proteolias?
Or
Okay.
Protesilaus.
I just called him prostate the whole time, so it was fine.
Prostate, of course, yeah.
Nice.
So while Prostate was cleaning up for the whole house itself was neat because they're about the preservation of the corpse and the stasis of the soul. So just holding something that is supposed to be temporary, always moving, just prolonging the space between life and death, between death and decay. That's doing the impossible. You're pausing time itself. Oh.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me when I realize that people have broader imaginations than me. And it's like, how does somebody come up with this and think this stuff up? Because it's so freaking cool, right? Was there any types of necromancy that you particularly disliked?
Soul siphoning, putting that out there.
Yeah, you know what? That, as I stated before, I didn't like the fact that the Cavaliers were there to just be a body, basically. And once they started talking about it, it was like, this is gross to me. I don't like this. Why?
One big energy pool you just sucked from, and everybody's got.
Yeah, just, you guys are friends now. Like, don't do this to each other.
It's such a cool ability if it's managed and it's with consent and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But when you're not gonna tell somebody like that, that's horrifying.
It kind of reminded me. This is a stretch. So kind of follow along for a minute. But it kind of reminded me of like the Cruciatus curse in Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
Where like they're in so much pain. Like, although in Harry Potter they're not like gaining energy from that other person, they're just, when the siphoning is happening, it's like they're in excruciating pain and they can't do anything about it. They just have to focus and get through it and allow their necromancer to do whatever they're trying to do. And to me, that's just torture. And it freaks me out, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Okay.
It knocks you on your ass, pretty much. I mean, there's nothing you can do. It was excruciating pain that they had to deal with, and you more or less pass out, and you don't remember a thing except just pain.
Yeah.
What was interesting about it, though, is that the more trust you have in your partner and the more you care about them, the less it seemed to hurt. For example, like, there was always that tenseness between the two who came from the house who did it, of like it being an honor sort of thing, more so than a love.
You're right.
But when Gideon and them tried it, Gideon was like, I accept you doing this. I want you to do this. Please do it. And when she should have been dead, by all accounts that everyone else was saying, she survived and bounced back like 4 times better.
Yeah, like it was, yeah. That's very true. That's very true. It really made me very uncomfortable reading it, because it's just like, you guys are getting so close to being friends and now I feel like it ruined it, but it didn't. Right. Um, okay, so we're gonna fast forward a little bit. And I kind of want to talk about the pool scene between Gideon and Harrow. Um, it's bathtub bonding, right? It, for those of you who have never heard of the bathtub bonding term, it's basically where. Okay, let me back up. It's one of the romantic staples of Japanese pop culture, and its hierarchies of class and rank are stripped away, and both characters are equally bare and equally vulnerable in moments like this. So, like, the pool scene is very similar to bathtub bonding, right? Because Harrow and Gideon are just like, everything else doesn't matter. We're gonna just let it all out right here. How did we feel about that scene?
Sad the fact that it made me cry.
Yeah.
Did it?
Yeah.
Amazing.
In a good way.
Yeah. It was a good
That
moment.
whole cultivation of basically two people that went from, I don't know, almost a near classic story of, you are just a soul siphoning. I am just taking you because you are pretty much the only option I have, because the one I had before kind of couldn't handle the standard anymore, so we bringing you along, to now I can't more or less live without you on that.
Yep.
And a whole shift from that. Oh yeah, that was a reading at 2 a.m. crying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that moment. It was the moment they finally accepted and expressed the fact that they do care and they do need each other, and it was like a release. Like, all the tension that they had the entire book was finally being honest with each other. And oh god, yeah.
Yeah. It for me it was very, I almost wish that they would have kissed at any point in that moment, because it was like all of this. Okay, this is my point of view from reading it, right? The build up with like the sexual tension between them until that moment, I was like, "Oh, they're getting it on in this pool right here, right now. It's happening." Even though Harrow just said that like she was in love with a corpse.
Yeah.
Like, it's going. This is happening.
But it's almost one of those things where I'm glad they didn't, because the book does that a lot, where it sets expectations, or it plays with the expectations that you have of a genre, of a story type, all that stuff. And I'm almost glad they didn't, just because it's such an obvious thing to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, yeah, I kind of wish they'd have had a moment.
Yeah, I agree. I think they did a better way of not bringing that up. I mean, especially the fact that Harrow finally ended up breaking out the whole backstory of the whole story that pretty much nobody else has known all the way up.
Right? They took the whole entire book to give like any information on anything. Going back to Gideon and Harrow, they never mention out loud being quote unquote lovers. So do we find it interesting that we automatically assume that they are? And was it something that we anticipated?
I will say that for me, from my perspective, they never actually got to that point, but they were getting to that point, and then the end of the book happens.
Uh-huh.
And I think that if that ending hadn't happened, they would have been. But I don't know that I ever felt like they actually got to that point where they were lovers.
Oh, the whole entire time I felt like they were secret lovers.
Yeah, like I think they were into each other, but as far as actually doing the thing, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's like
They never
great
acted on it.
intimacy and strength and trust between them. But how could there not be when you're literally the only other person you've been with for how old were these characters now?
It was literally from childhood.
Yeah,
Each one was different ages.
let's see, Gideon is
we
Like
already-
the chick
she's
from the
18 in this book.
yeah, I was gonna say the chick from the seventh house I think was like 16, and then
And yeah, they're both 18, Harrow and Gideon. So young. So, and like I say,
Young.
figuring that out, it makes sense. A lot of the personalities of these characters being so, honest to God, immature.
Okay, I want to talk about that a little bit.
Please.
Because starting with the beginning of the book, it was just the way that the writing was, and the way that the author portrayed how the story was going to go at first seemed way off track to have Gideon say things like slow your roll. Right.
Yes.
Like some of the things that Gideon said to make it more quote unquote down to earth or sarcastic seemed way off track to where she didn't seem like she fit into the story for me for a little while.
Yep.
But once it got going, it was like, oh, okay. She's just sarcastic asshole, and it's freaking hilarious.
Yeah. It did. It took me a bit. Like I read through the first couple chapters and I'm like, I don't know if I like this.
Yeah, it was like it just seemed way out of left field the
Yeah, I agree
way
with
that Gideon was talking and reacting to things compared to Harrow. Right? Yeah. Harrow seemed like very put together, I guess professional, if you will. And then Gideon's just like joking about everything.
A brat.
Yeah. Yeah.
The whole time, and I'm just like, Gideon, shut up.
Right. But
Yeah.
like now looking back at it, it's like you're
magazine.
hilarious. Like it's actually hilarious.
Yeah, look, I'm so glad I stuck with it because I mean, it gets so good.
I would say it's one of the best books I've ever read on that,
It's
especially for a
up there.
series on that they're going to continue.
Mhm.
But I mean, yeah, you're spot on that this character really developed from being like like shut your goddamn mouth, you're just annoying the piss out of me, to once the biggest game of Clue started on
Yes.
that, and we ended up trying to really figure, wow, these characters, they developed everyone. Every single character of
Yeah.
every single house wasn't just left. And like I said, you read that back part, you realize you have people from the age of 13 all the way to like 40 something
Mhm.
involved in this.
Yes. I feel like Gideon was the character to be put in as comic relief.
Yes.
Yeah.
With multiple different occasions in the book. But I mean, I grew to love Gideon as a character, so
Absolutely.
good in that sense, I
So-
suppose.
On the note of this question, mostly because like we were joking around earlier about the little section in the back for the explanation of each of the houses.
Yeah.
Did you read the extra part as well, the essay portion?
No?
So there's this cute little essay in the back, a sermon on cavaliers and necromancers.
Oh?
All right, I'm gonna
Taken
get on
from-
Amazon and get this book. I need to read this stuff.
But it is an absolutely wonderful excerpt for your question. It's about 6 pages long. You could probably find it online. The first sentence of it, though, goes, I've heard the critique of cultural depictions of necromancers romanticizing an essentially military bondage. It is not hard to see these critiques as ignoring the pognicity, the humanity, and quintionality,
Oh, you're fine.
the humanity, quintionality of the 9 houses, qualities of the concept. And it just keeps going more and more into it about how like people sexualizing it is kind of weird. But it was like, so the author knows the people are going to see this type of intimacy as a lover's thing.
Yep.
So is this to push the thought that yes, they are lovers more rather than to actually go against it?
So
kind
that's
of like
interesting.
what do you call it?
Because I, you know, that's interesting to me because that makes it feel like the author doesn't want it to be an enemies to lovers trope. It makes it feel like it truly is just supposed to be a necromancer and their cavalier is truly just there to protect the necromancer. And we are assuming that they are going to fall in love because they spend so much time together.
Bingo. Like I said,
Mhm.
it plays with our expectations of all of this stuff. It puts these things there, but then kind of says, no, it's not actually this. And that's kind of like I said, like I'm glad they didn't kiss in the pool. I'm glad that
I wanted
that
them to kiss in the pool. I'm not
I
gonna lie.
wanted yeah, like
I
You did
wanted
it
tongue
at
and
that point.
everything, fan.
Oh boy.
you wanted it to go smutty, but
I wanted it
That's
to
what
turn into
fanfiction
50
is
Shades of Grey
describing
right there.
in detail.
Basically, from hot pool to hot tub.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. Bathtub bonding to bathtub bondage, if you will.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Okay. So I have kind of an interesting question. This is the last question that I have for everybody. If Gideon the Ninth ever had a movie, oh, I spelt movie wrong. I put move, or TV
How dare
adaptation,
you?
would you be interested in something like that? Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
not work as a movie.
You don't
This-
think?
It would have to work. It would have to be a series.
Mhm.
They'd have to almost do like what they're doing with Foundation.
Yeah,
kind of
or just give us 10 episodes.
yeah.
That would work because you'd have to spend time getting people to actually like Gideon, like the book does.
Yeah.
And then, but honestly, like it's one of those things where the vibe is so weird that I don't know if it would work on a mass audience.
I think it would. I think it's again, I read a thing about how, what do you take? So if you look at a lot of the different series, you have a movie, you're talking max, well, I'm going to exclude like, Harry Potter's a massive amount of ones that they've turned into movies. But if you kind of or like Lord of the Rings that they've taken that. But if with a book series or a series you turn into that, you have a lot more playability to be able when you have a TV series than you do a movie, which generally you get about
Yep.
3 hours, maybe if you can keep people's attention on that long enough. You
Well-
got to cram a lot into it. It's kind of like what they did with Dune in recent. They even had to break that up.
Yeah.
Like you can do that, but like Foundation, that's now a series, and they're going to continue that on, and that's got hundreds of books, or like 6 books, prequels involved in it, kind of the same idea. So I think you really could get people to do it. I think the new Amazon series, if you haven't seen it, Wheel of
Oh,
Time,
it's so good.
says it's a very similar, but exclude the necromancy to it.
Right.
It's kind of the similar idea where you have a individual with power and then somebody who's kind of tied to that same person with that
Or-
power. So like again, even that it follows on the same line. I think a TV series would be yes to a TV series. If they turn it into a movie, I just don't think they could do it unless they did like part 1, part 2, part 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're getting into where you just make a series because the thing about it, like if you're going to make a movie has to, by its nature, has to be more plot driven. And this is a very character driven story.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so you need time with these characters to form these bonds and to form these attachments or start hating this one and loving this one. And I think a short series would work a lot better. And I mean, if they made it, I would watch the shit out of it.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, God,
I mean, speaking about character driven, can we just talk about like the enormous supporting cast of the book? Like
they're all so unique and so good.
So good. Like the dynamic between all of the necromancers and their cavaliers. Like it's
Well,
just
to me of very similar to when you're doing the Hunger Games, obviously, except with different planets. Each person had a unique character, excluding the whole going down the line and bringing people back kind of thing where they started doing farther on. But you had to love and learn a different character that was sent from a different house into this
Yeah.
massive place, all to try to basically kind of come down to we want one. We more or less want one person to be the best out of all of this, but we're not going to tell you that, and have fun.
Right. Let's rate it. Stars? 0 out of 10. How did you feel?
8 out of 10. Really enjoyed it. Great read. I will definitely continue the series.
Exactly the same 8 out of 10. It is not perfect by any means. It's not the best thing I've ever read, but it's better than most things I've read, and I love where the series is going, and I cannot wait to continue it.
I give it a 9. I really enjoyed it. I think that definitely I wish they kind of would have mentioned about in the beginning that there was a whole like back epilogue thing that you could kind of
Yeah. Oh my gosh. When I was flipping through it yesterday, I was like, why didn't I know that this was here before? This changes everything.
Yeah, that's not even in the audiobook version in any way.
There's
so I
like
have no clue.
descriptions
My
of
heart's
each
racing.
house and everything.
I've already ordered the book.
I was pronouncing things wrong the whole time, and all I had to do was look at the back of the book to be able to do it. Granted, I already have a digital version, but still, I mean, like,
Right. Like,
I said Lichter wrong the whole time. It was Lichter. Like, it was like, geez,
yeah.
can't even say that.
Honest to God, like the different rooms and going through the rooms with the puzzles and things like that, really gave me Resident Evil vibes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also video game vibes all over it, because when she's in there fighting the thing and she's giving her a little heart, like the weak points to hit.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah.
That
was one of my favorite tests. That
so
was
good.
one of my favorite moments in the whole entire book, where it was like, oh my gosh, yes. Oh, goodness gracious. I don't compare books to video games. Like, that's not something that my brain
hard to
does.
do,
Yeah. And you saying that is very interesting. And now I'm going to be thinking about it all day long.
Yep. The moment that started saying like glowing where the weak spots are, and I'm like, I've played Horizon Zero Dawn or any other video game ever. I know how this works.
Right, yeah.
It tells you, hey, you have a weak point here. Shoot.
Yeah.
Hit it here. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Oh, okay. So what if there was like a video game adaptation of Gideon?
That would be tough, because there's not a whole lot of action in the book.
Oh, but there could be.
There could be.
It could still be like a very escape room-esque type video game, because they all have to find the keys, right?
Yeah.
And you have to get through these tests. So I feel like it would be more of like a less action game, but more of like a puzzle-based game.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
A
with
nice
that.
point and click.
With
like
necromancy
a multiplayer
involved.
point and click where everybody plays a different house and you're going through tests and finding keys.
Gosh, that would be so cool. But in a way to where you could agree to work together or disagree.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Whew. I do highly recommend you reading it if you're into anything that we discussed today.
Yeah.
But we will be deciding a new book in the Discord. I will probably come up with a couple suggestions, and suggestions from y'all are absolutely welcomed. And we can, I guess, take a poll and decide on what we want to read next. And then hopefully we can do another discussion a little bit sooner than this one was.
Yeah.
We did it.
We did it. We finally talked about the book.
Let us go.
Good for us. We're doing great. Thank you so much for hanging out during that book discussion of Gideon the Ninth. This is something that I am looking forward to continue doing. So if you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And head over to twitch.tv/atheenabean for more.